Hey, good Wednesday morning, everybody. It's Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. Let's talk about this wild ride we're getting ready to go on with some crazy weather over the next couple of days. It's going to be persistent cloud cover, cool, wet weather, and potential for ice several times. Now, snow is still on the table possibly next week, but I'll be honest with you, the pattern really starting to lean a little bit more towards an icy threat right now. Let's show you what's going on. Here's a look at the visible satellite image and the radar today. A couple things you notice here. I'm going to turn on the temperatures real quickly because it'll really show you where the cold air is. And I'm also going to turn on the contours, which will show you where the cold air is as well. You could see the cold air moving into the Carolinas today, kind of that wedge orientation, that northeast wind, which is going to give us a pocket of cold air. But the heart of the cold air is still back here. It's actually dove way deep into Texas. We've been watching for the last week or so. Well, initially, probably last week around Monday, it looked like this was going to come through this direction. Instead, it's pushing more in this direction. And that's causing some problems because what it's going to do, instead of getting a full blast of Arctic air, we're going to get kind of these little shallow pockets that are going to ooze around the mountains. And this usually causes potentially the potential for ice. I mean, it really is an ice setup right now. Now, next week, there's still the potential that as the whole cold air mass pushes east, we could get into more of a winter setup. But right now, it looks potentially more like just a whole bunch of icy threats. And I'll show you the winter storm and winter weather advisories in effect right now. I'm going to turn off the satellite image, and I'll show you just across the board to the north. We've got winter storm watches up in parts of Virginia, West Virginia. But look at this big stretch of ice storm warnings. That's really where we're seeing the icy threat. What I think is going to happen, especially by Friday morning, we're going to start seeing some of these advisories getting pushed down into the Carolinas as the cold air wedge begins to take over. So let's start looking at some of the data going forward here. So let's start with what's going to happen today. Obviously, with this stalled boundary to the north, we're probably going to see a lot of low clouds, maybe fog, kind of drizzly, nothing I would call downpours, but temperatures are probably going to hold steady, if not slowly fall as we go through the day. What's going to happen is that moisture rides up and over that cold air at the surface. The surface winds are like this, but the winds up around 5,000 feet are coming from this direction and this direction. So we get that overrunning, which creates a lot of low clouds, fog, and drizzle. Now, the Arctic front causing all kinds of mess. That red is ice. So you can see that causing issues through tonight and into tomorrow. But a wave of low pressure forms on the Arctic front and starts enhancing the moisture. So you can see this is a wintry mess to the north, rain to the south, and where that boundary sets up, it really is the battle lines of who's going to see what. So as we go through time, tonight into tomorrow, we're going to see moisture really ramp up. So tomorrow, probably the wettest day of the next several, and not a really nice day. Temperatures probably struggle to get to 50, but it should still be relatively warm compared to what's going to happen going into Thursday night. Because what happens with time, on Thursday night, cold air is going to work its way from northeast to southwest. We call that the wedge or a backdoor cold front. It's already here, actually, the backdoor front. But the cold air is going to get enhanced. So as this heavy moisture moves in, you're going to notice some pinks and reds starting to show up in Virginia, into the mountains, the foothills. So this area right up in here, temperatures are going to be really close to the freezing mark. And we're probably going to see at least some light icing going on early on Friday morning. And I'm going to go all the way through Friday morning. You can see probably freezing drizzle or mist at some time Friday morning. So we go through Friday, ugly day. I mean, even in Charlotte, it's rain, but I'm talking like 38, 39 degrees in rain. You know what I'm talking about. That's the ugly kind of stuff. And that's going to continue really for most of Friday into Friday night. Another surge of moisture comes in, but the cold air still lurking to the north. So potentially we've got more freezing rain. So you kind of see this is a really ugly pattern, just wet, cold, miserable conditions going on for a while. And let me show you the futurecast of temperatures, because it is pretty stunning to see just how cold this air mass is to the northwest, and how we're going to see a little piece of that come down in here. So really cold conditions will be sitting. Apparently doesn't want to load. It's going to just be I wouldn't say frigid, but not Arctic in nature, but probably the 30s and 40s with rain and clouds, which is almost worse than the Arctic air mass heading our way. So let's take a look at longer range, because I think what's interesting looking at the longer range, and I'm going to show you real quickly the freezing rain potential the next several days. This is really through the weekend. So you see the potential for icing really centered just north of Interstate 40. This is Friday going into Saturday. And you can see that potential that we're going to have some icy weather probably lingering into the weekend. Not a ton of ice, not a huge ice storm, but icy weather. But long range, I showed this real briefly. Next week, there's still that potential bigger storm on Tuesday. And right now, the probabilities, this is just from a pattern recognition, is, we've got a 10, maybe 30% chance of a 1/4 inch liquid equivalent of snow, sleet, or ice. So this could be snow, but I gotta be honest with you, the pattern is just very sleet and freezing rain looking. Now, the main track is back here. If this begins to shift this direction, this could put our area more into a threat for more of a snow threat. And you can see even on Wednesday, so Tuesday, Wednesday next week, we're kind of at least in that pattern. And I'm going to go back and show you what this is going to look like in the long range. So basically over the next couple of days, it's just going to be dreary, wet, maybe a little bit of ice. But next week is probably the best pattern we've had all winter. And if we're going to get a winter event with maybe snow or something more substantial, next week looks to be the time frame. So we're going to start on Friday, go through time. And the weekend, you see waves of more moisture. And again, the red and the pinks are showing the icy threat. So we go through time. We'll go through Saturday. There's the Saturday event. That's why, I think we could have several waves of icy threat for the Carolinas. But really, let's go to Valentine's Day, and we'll stop this in the morning. So what's going to be going on is here, we've got a bigger piece of energy coming right here. At this time, the cold air is starting to work more east. So initially, this weekend and the weekend, we're getting cold air wedging. But what's going to happen going into the weekend is that a deeper pool of cold air is going to be heading our way. It's not a true Arctic blast, but it's definitely deeper cold air that's going to begin working our way. And you can see this storm beginning to take shape down over Texas and the southern plains. That's a legit big winter storm. Now the question is, what is the track going to be? Is it going to be inland? Is it going to be a little bit further south? The reason the southern track is better for snow for the Carolinas is it allows for more cold air to be pulled down. If it tracks here, then it pulls more of the warm air in. So it's the thing. We want it to track along the Gulf Coast. But even to the west of us, there's enough cold air and moisture that we're probably going to see at least an icy threat. So you see some of the ice showing up even on Monday. As we go into Tuesday, we really start to see this storm crank up. And that's a lot of pink right now. So because the main low is back here, the cold air is getting wedged in and the moisture is riding up and over it. It's really kind of more of an ice threat right now. But like I said, if this low shifts this way, or if it shifts this way, it's colder. If it shifts this way or this way, it's more rain and ice, or even less ice, probably more rain, to be honest with you. But that's why you see these subtle changes. That's why overall people ask me, what's your thoughts about this storm next week? Really nothing, because the details of this are still to be worked out. All we know is that we're going to have a storm somewhere in here, Arctic high pressure to the west. Those are the ingredients for a favorable pattern. Details in the model guidance are not going to come into clear focus until we get closer to the event. What I look for is the low pressure still somewhere in the vicinity, and is cold air still there? If I start seeing the pattern change where this low is shifting here or just disappears completely from the southeast, or the cold air modifies, those are things where you start saying, oh, it's trending away from winter weather. A subtle shift east or west and the model shows rain versus sleet or ice isn't really that big of a deal. That's pretty much what you expect in the long range forecast. So don't get caught up in these individual model runs. Focus on the larger picture. Are you seeing the forest through the trees? I always like to say in these kind of scenarios. So that's a legit winter storm on Tuesday that's going to be around for a couple days. So we have time to watch this. Don't get caught up in the minutia of, one day the model says rain, or one day this model, or I found some German model. Someone posted a German model. You're going to find all models are wrong, okay? But some models are useful. What we're looking at in the model guidance is not exactly the temperature and rainfall 7 days from now or ice. We're looking for, is there a trough? Is there a storm? Is there cold air? Is it anywhere in the vicinity of where we live to come together with small changes? So the ingredients are there. It's like getting everything out to make dinner. Are all those ingredients on the table? Okay, we don't have dinner yet, but we've got the ingredients there. Now, if those ingredients go away, dinner could go away. But as long as the ingredients are on the table, you still have the potential for wintry weather. So I will tell you right now, I still think this looks like an icy setup, but the shift in the track is key. We could see it shift more towards snow with the colder air. The big wild card in all this is that big Arctic area of high pressure sitting off to the west. That's a big pool of cold air that's not going anywhere anytime soon. That is an ingredient that we don't normally have for this length of time even though it's not over us, it's to the west. That's a big reservoir of cold air that can be used at some point. So stay tuned. There will be further updates and more vlogs about this whole mess.